We'll discuss some important questions from environmental science. So, the first question is, environmental science includes which of the following? Traditional science, societal values, political awareness. Okay, all of the above is correct. All traditional science, societal values, political awareness, all these things are involved in environmental science. Next questions. In organisms, environment is the surrounding condition that affect that organisms. True or false? True or false is given. So it is true. That's why the right answer is, an organism's environment is the surrounding condition that affect that organism is true. Next, social and political decisions are made with respect to political jurisdictions. Environmental problems often transcend these jurisdictions is correct. Okay, so social and political decisions are made with respect to political jurisdictions. Environmental problems, the right answer is, often transcend the jurisdictions. Okay, next, the issues of declining salmon stocks in the Pacific Northwest is a good example of how environmental problems are relatively easy to solve once we understand the science behind salmon production. It is true or false? It is false. So, the issue of declining salmon in the Pacific Northwest is a good example of how environmental problems are relatively easy to solve once we understand the science behind salmon reproduction is false. Environmental scientists who use an ecosystem approach to understand environmental issues will take into account which of the following. So, human activity is correct, by the interrelation between organisms is correct, geography is also correct. So all of the aboves are included. Okay, so environmental scientists who use an ecosystem approach to understand environmental issues will take into account which of the following. So right answer is human activity, the interrelation between organisms, geography. Okay, next, wilderness in the United States tend to be owned by various levels of government is the right answer. It is giving what question is, wilderness in the United States tends to be owned by, giving what, private individual, corporate entities? No. So right answer is various levels of government. Next, wilderness areas in northern Canada and throughout Alaska tend to be remarkably resilient to human disturbance and repair themselves rather quickly. True or false? It is false. Okay. Next, when compared to ecosystem in the north, the ecosystem in the agricultural middle, so less human impact? No. Have been much more significantly altered? Yes, it is correct. Have not been influenced by governmental policies? No. So the right answer is have been much more significantly altered. What? The ecosystem of the north. Okay. Next, governmental agencies encourage use of marginal lands in the dry waste through subsidizing or grazing and irrigation is true. Is true. What? The government agencies encourage use of marginal lands in the dry waste through subsidizing grazing and irrigation is true. Next, long-term use of irrigated lands in the arid waste often results in buildup of salts in the soil, thereby reducing the soil fertility. Is true or false? It is true. So, long-term use of irrigated lands in the arid waste often results in the buildup of salts in the soil, thereby reducing the soil fertility. Is true. Next, in 1993, the United States Forest Service was directed to stop below cost timber sales. Yes. Begin selling timber no matter what is the cost. No. Stop all logging on old growth stands. No. So right answer is a stop below cost timber sales. So in 1993, the United States Forest Service was directed to stop below cost timber sales. Next, one of the biggest problem associated with and industrial use of the Great Lakes and the East Coast is contamination of the water with toxic material. Yes. Increased logging? No. Decreased economic activities? No. Increased recreational activity? No. So the right answer is contamination of the water with toxic material. So one of the biggest problems associated with the industrial use of the Great Lakes and the East Coast is contamination of the water with the toxic materials. Next, despite poverty in parts of the South, state and local governments in those areas have often increased environmental regulations and increased their enforcement in order to keep polluting industries out. Is true or false? Is false. So with this we have discussed some important questions belong to environmental science.